Gun control and gun rights are causing heated debates across the country, and Illinois recently became the last state to legalize concealed carry. As some of the first residents are getting their licenses in the mail, I took a look at what it takes to be able to carry your weapon with you at all times and why the issue is still so controversial. It's a Saturday morning, and Mike Bias is teaching a concealed carry class in a local hotel conference room. He's an NRA certified instructor and one of 2,100 certified teachers in the state of Illinois for concealed carry licensing. The class is smaller than usual, just 6 men and me. Applicants are required to complete 16 hours of training. Veterans, those who have taken an NRA safety course, and gun owners who have concealed carry licenses from other states only have to take the second 8-hour class.
What does qualify you to carry a gun? There are those who say the Second Amendment qualifies you as to carry a gun. And other people say, well, no, you should be able to handle a gun safely and demonstrate certain marksmanship proficiency. But at the end of the day, if you look at the other 49 states where concealed carry is already in effect, there's no blood in the streets. We don't have a bloodbath. We don't have people shooting each other and shooting themselves. There's something sobering that happens when people start carrying a gun, and it really affects them, I think, to become much more responsible. So it's hard to say what qualifies someone to carry a gun. In 49 other states, some states where there's very little limited training, and we don't have a lot of instances of lack of responsibility and accidental shootings and road rage shootings, it would seem that training isn't as necessary as some people would think it is.
For some, 16 hours doesn't seem like enough, but the disagreement over training highlights the differences between Second Amendment advocates and anti-gun violence advocates. When the court ruled concealed carry had to become law, it forced compromise.
The process itself was something that was argued back and forth at the legislative level. Our organization was down there asking for more hours of training. So 16 hours is actually less than what police officers get. And so we were saying that regular citizens need more hours than that. You know, I think 16 hours represents a compromise between both sides.
In Mike's class, his students spend 4 hours learning the law section by section. It's written word for word in their workbook.
Paragraph 3 is basically the same thing, but it's regarding other property that you have a duty to defend or that is in your possession. It doesn't mean that you can shoot across the yard at the person who's breaking into your neighbor's house while they're on vacation, if you read this, but if your house is sitting and they're breaking in and you fear for your life or the life of someone in the house, or you're protecting the property, it gives you some latitude here to defend that property.
Perhaps the most important part of the legal review is learning where you can and cannot take your firearm. There are 23 places you can't take your gun specified in the law.
Chapter 21 is being on public property, property paid for with public funds, taxpayer-supported funds, like a fairground. You can't have a gun there.
Other businesses and or restaurants have the option of posting a sign. Even if it doesn't qualify as one of the restricted places to carry, the owner of that business can still post a sign, no firearms. And if someone does carry a firearm into any of those establishments, it really concealed carry license doesn't have any impact. It's just like if last year you walked into that establishment carrying a gun. It's illegal, it's unlawful, and they would be arrested.
We've also worked with another community organization, Moms Demand Action, who would like to see an opt-in provision versus the current opt-out. So right now, the way it is, private businesses, they can opt out of allowing handguns into their place of business. Moms Demand Action would like to see this opt-in provision. So if you want handguns on your property, if you're okay to allow them, then putting up a notice signaling that you allow that. And so they're advocating, and we support them on that.
For those who want to carry, the number of places they're not allowed to carry their gun isn't ideal.
There's a lot of shortcomings to the law. The law requires you to unload your gun or leave your gun somewhere before you go into prohibited areas. If I'm unloading my gun and loading my gun and unloading and loading, that's increased opportunities for an accidental discharge. So that's not good. And the other thing is, with the prohibited areas, all we're doing is announcing to criminals that you can come in here no one will be armed and able to defend themselves.
An accidental discharge can quickly become reality when carrying a weapon on your person. That's why so much of the class is devoted to gun safety. The most accidents happen when holstering and unholstering your firearm.
But before you're out there on the streets, you got to be able to reholster without looking. Not that you won't look when you have to reholster, but if you can't do it in practice without looking, you haven't practiced enough.
The most popular reason people apply for concealed carry licenses is for personal protection. Mike's fellow teacher, Georgianne Calloway, brings a woman's perspective to the concealed carry issue.
For a female, I think it's extremely important. One of the things that I think women need to do is consider self-defense. When we hear things on the news regarding women being brutally attacked, it's because they didn't have any self-defense. Whether you train in martial arts or whether you conceal and carry, it's something that you can go home and say, I can protect myself. And I think it's important to be trained, and I think it's important to be able to exercise your constitutional right and protect yourself.
Back in class, the students practice handling and learn techniques for self-defense shooting. Then it's off to the shooting range, where they will get 10 practice rounds before their shooting qualification test. In order to pass, you have to get 21 out of 30 shots on the black part of the target from varying distances. I'm a relatively inexperienced shooter, and I passed the test 30 out of 30. And after sitting through the class, I felt like I had learned a lot more about firearms and firearm safety. Once the students complete their 16 hours in class and pass their shooting test, they can get their concealed carry licenses once their applications are approved, which is another process behind the scenes.
We have a few people in the department that actually review the applications of Naperville residents, or even people that formerly lived in Naperville. We're tasked with the duty of reviewing the application and the person applying, and if we have any reason to object to them obtaining a concealed carry license, we do that. We object by listing the reasons why and attaching a copy of any police documentation, and we submit that to the Concealed Carry Licensing Board, which reviews it.
Because access to guns is seen as a right, the debate isn't likely to end. An opinion is often shaped by perspective.
Concealed carry is important because we have a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. If you looked at any of the Founding Fathers, they would tell you that subjects and peasants were disarmed, but citizens could protect themselves. And it's not just to protect myself against threats to my person, it's also to protect us from our government.
The more guns out on the street, the more dangerous in general. And then you'd have people that will argue, well, I'm safer if I have my gun because if I get attacked, I can protect myself. So there's an argument both ways on this, but from a law enforcement standpoint, I think we pretty much agree that less guns equals a safer environment.
We have been confronted by folks who do have concealed carry permits, and I think even they do see the need for common sense regulations. So we may differ on exactly what those regulations are, but we've been engaged in a number of conversations with folks where they would say, well, on that point, we agree with you.
I'm Jordan Abadea for Naperville News Extra.